Hello and welcome back to Let's Talk Rangers. This is the third episode in a three-part Stay or Go series analysing Rangers squad. Today, we've finally made it. We're on to Rangers attackers. First joining me is Kyle McLean. Kyle, how are you?
Yeah, good. Looking forward to this one, given how little the team actually remains from the past two episodes. So we'll see if we've got even enough people to field 11 players at the end of this. But no, this is probably the one out of the three of them I've been most looking forward to. Just because of the amount of players that we have that we can talk about. But yeah, looking forward to this one.
Always think as an attacking player, you're always judged a little bit more harsh, aren't you, in terms of the numbers and things always go against you. The defenders maybe get away with that aspect, but you're always looking at the raw numbers when it comes to attackers. So they're going to, there's a potential that some of them are going to absolutely get it in this episode.
Going full Rangers dad, there's only two stats that matter when it comes to the attackers, isn't it? And one of them's not XG.
We'll not mention XG this early, no way. It might come up in some answers, but we won't mention it this early. But yeah, we're joined by Craig Dennett as well. Craig, how are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. I think this is the one that I've been looking forward to the most, just because it's the most exciting one of them all. I don't think we've got necessarily all the answers, or maybe any of the answers when it comes to strikers, but some of the players started to come into a bit of a game towards the end of our second half of last season. So yeah, looking forward to this one. Good that we've already got Shankland in the door as a new player anyway. He won't be part of this discussion really, I don't think, but good that we've already started to make some changes anyway on that front.
Yeah, absolutely, and you're right to say that. We're not going to discuss Shankland. I think we would all have the same answer with Shankland. Obviously, he's staying, he's just signed, but I think we will all just talk about how good a player he is. So it's not the time. We'll have plenty of time throughout the rest of the summer to talk about that when we jump into more detail on him, probably more analysis and things. But yeah, if anyone's not watched the previous two episodes on this, you can find that. We'll link that in the video description below. But yeah, it is very much going through each player, all of us giving our opinion on that player and deciding whether we would keep them around, they would stay, or we would let them go. What I will say as well is loan players will be included in this. So the likes of Mikey Moore and Andreas, Skov, Olsen will be discussed. Whether we believe there's an opportunity for them to come back and they're realistic or not, you can let us know that in the comments as well. But we wanted it as an opportunity for us to give our say on it. And yeah, whether we feel that a deal actually could be something that Rangers explore, which I'm definitely looking forward to talking to you both about Andreas, Skov, Olsen on, because there's a lot of debate about that a couple of weeks ago. But anyway, let's get started. We're going to start with Oliver Antman first. The 24-year-old joined last summer from Go Ahead Eagles. 28 appearances so far, 1 goal, 5 assists. I think came in with quite a bit of excitement because of the assist record he'd had in the Eredivisie. I think it was 16 assists he had for the Go Ahead Eagles. So a lot of people were looking at it and thinking, wow, the service that he can provide. Had a great start against Pilsen in the Champions League qualifiers, and then really was just unable to replicate it. It just couldn't. He couldn't put things together. Had a couple of injuries, maybe seen some flashes towards the end of the season, but I think he would probably say himself it was a difficult first season at Rangers. Let's start with yourself first, Kyle, then on Oliver Antman. Give us some of your thoughts on him, and ultimately, if it was up to you, would he stay this summer or would you let him go?
Yeah, it's been a funny one. I'll be honest. I was delighted when Oliver Antman was announced as a Rangers signing. All the stats look good. You reckon? I mean, he tore it up in Eredivisie. Direct, the exact type, all the characteristics you'd want from a winger that you think would translate well into the SPFL, but it just hasn't happened for him. We've seen it in flashes. Despite saying all that, I'm going to keep him. I think it's that old adage, innit? I honestly think there's a player in there. I think this is a very, very McInnes type player in terms of his directness on the wings. I really think, or really hope, that McInnes can go in there and get a bit of a tune out of Antman. I know a lot of people would chuck him and bin him and happily get that. I mean, there's people going out there saying, are you even going to get your money back for him? Not sure, but he's one I would keep, and hopefully McInnes can coach him into being the player that I feel that he can be.
Completely agree with you on the Derek McInnes point. I do think if you can get him back to the way he played in the Eredivisie, where he was quite direct, it was first time balls into the box, he was able to get to the byline and stand up, cut it back. I actually think that type of winger can be really effective in Scottish football, and I think Derek McInnes will look at that as well. Craig, what about you? Would you keep him or let him go?
I'd keep him, and I completely agree with what you guys are saying. I think the player that we saw when we first heard rumours that he was signing, and you saw the clips of him, you saw the types of assists that he was bringing, I was excited by it because it was the types of assist that we've been crying out for but haven't been able to do. He was every time he was hitting the byline and cutting the ball back, and we know how effective that can be, and we are sadly lacking in that and have been for a number of years now. I think we saw what he can do against Pilsen in that game. I think one of the key things though was getting the ball over the top of the fullback and getting it to him early, so he had all the space in the world to try and run into. I think what's really people forget as well, he's only 24. He's still still on the young side of players, so he's still got room to develop. He's still got room to grow, and I think it's going to be a big year for Oliver Antman. I would be surprised if he was our starting winger going into next season. I'd be probably quite disappointed if he was labelled as the starting winger, because it's a position on that right wing where I really do think we need to improve and we need to buy quality. But in terms of having a role within the squad, in terms of improving on last season, how effective I think he can be, I would definitely keep him.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you both on this one. I would keep him as well. I think you both made really good points there from a tactical perspective. It's maybe a bit of a surprise to Kyle, because I've been quite critical of Oliver Antman through last season. I think I had a lot of frustration with him because he kept coming inside the pitch. That's maybe down to the tactical system as well, which we've addressed. Maybe there's a confidence issues as well. You're coming in the pitch, don't really want to take on your man. If he can get back to the simplicity of his game where he faces up his man and he looks to get to the byline, should I say, or he looks to get it into the box early, I think there is a good player there. An easy one. I think I would definitely keep Oliver Antman.
So all three of us agreeing he's not finished yet.
Oh, I knew that. I was thinking, can we get through this without that being thrown in?
Absolutely
not. You've just made sure it's thrown in before we move on. But yeah, okay, we're all aligned on Oliver Antman. He's going to stay under Derek McInnes this season. Okay, on to the next player, Djeidi Gassama, 22-year-old, joined from Sheffield Wednesday last summer. 56 appearances for him so far, 9 goals, 6 assists. I think it's fair to say the way he started, we all felt this is an absolute bargain. How have we been able to get him out of Sheffield Wednesday for that sort of fee? Rumours of a bid from Monaco in January as well, supposedly upwards of 10 million, which probably shows you there is value in there. I think we have seen glimpses of Djeidi Gassama's ability, but I think with any winger, there's a lot of inconsistencies in his game. We'll start with you first then, Craig, on Djeidi Gassama. Did you have similar frustrations last season? And if it was up to you, would you keep him, giving him a chance, or would you cash in this summer with likely interest in the player and let him go?
Yeah, I think I share kind of how you outlined it there. I thought he started off like a man on fire. Probably one of the only players that excelled in Russell Martin's kind of system. I felt like it gave him the freedom to move where he needed to move. It kind of isolated him on the wing with one-on-one quite a lot of times, and that really benefited him. It allowed him to cut inside and make a difference. Even like he was flying in at the back post with headers and stuff like that early on in the season, and really thought we were onto one. And then when Danny Rule came in, he seemed to kind of get bogged down a bit and struggle, and then felt like maybe quite similar to Antman, he just lost confidence for a few periods of time in there, and some domestic defenders probably worked out how to play him a little bit, and that stifled him. He's maybe a bit of unfortunate in terms of he set expectations so high when he first started the season that then when you hit a bit of a down period or you hit a bit of you struggle a wee bit, then people think, oh, he must just be crap. Well, I don't think he is. I think he is really good. He came from Sheffield Wednesday with their fans raving about him. I couldn't believe that we'd managed to get him for that little. He's a player I'd like to stay at Rangers. I'm not sure he will stay at Rangers. I think if a bid of the right value comes in, maybe 13 to 15 million pounds, if you get into that sort of bracket, I think you'll see Djeidi Gassama go. But I would like to see him stay at Rangers for at least another season, if not 2, and see if we can get more out of him.
The big frustration I had with Djeidi Gassama, and I understand as a winger you are inconsistent, I thought he gave the ball away far too much. Like, I think sometimes you have to understand as a winger, if you can't face up your man, you can't beat him, and you think that there's a good chance you're going to lose the ball, you have to do your best to retain it and go again. If that means you cut back and you lay it off and you look for an opportunity, you do that. I'll just give my opinion quickly on it, Kyle. I would actually keep Djeidi Gassama. I think what Craig mentioned there in terms of fee, 13 to 15 million, that would be a great deal. I would let him go. I don't see that with the last 6 months of the season. I don't think teams will come back in at the value. And I think he'll end up staying because of that. Give me your thoughts on Djeidi Gassama there in terms of staying, or is he going?
In terms of Djeidi Gassama, I do empathise with him a bit, because he was sacrificed for the greater good of the team when Rule came in, because he was a player that could trust. You've both touched on it. He was out of position. There's so, and this was such a big theme and a big frustration of Rangers in the last 5, 6, even 10 years. So many players played out of position. Like, why? I'd let him go. I would let him go because he was just far too inconsistent, far too unreliable last year. See, Djeidi Gassama is brilliant if you're a couple of goals up and there's no pressure on the team. He makes his runs and he can do things like that. But for me, he's just, I just think, again, go back to the intangibles. I think he lacks it. And I think Djeidi Gassama was a player that was, I mean, I'm not saying he wasn't brought to Rangers because of his footballing ability, but I think that he's been brought in to make a profit. I mean, I suppose all the players will have been brought in to make some sort of a profit in, but I think Djeidi Gassama more than most. I know the reported fees for the 10 million or whatever it was, or 13 million from Villarreal. Honestly, I would have bitten your hand off in January for that, if I'm being honest. But yeah, he's a guy I'd love to. If a good bid comes in for him, I would say goodbye to him. Thanks for your service, and because I honestly think that Rangers can get better value in there. But yeah, he was played out of position too much, and it was just too inconsistent over a full season for me.
I think it was different for Rangers in January of where we were and what we were looking to do towards the end of the season. They've maybe felt it's not worth the risk for us to let Djeidi Gassama go. There was also interest in Youssef Chermiti, who we'll come on to in January, and both bids were rejected reportedly. But yeah, a bit of a split on that one. You would let him go. Craig and I would keep him. That'll be an interesting one to watch throughout the summer, because I think there will be some interest in him. Just whether you actually generate that value again, I'm not sure. I've changed the order on this because I think you'll understand why. The two players that we'll talk about after this player are kind of related, I think, in terms of the squad makeup. So we're going to talk about Andreas Skov Olsen next. I think this one will be easy for us personally. I'd be very surprised if we've not all got the same answer, but we'll have a quick chat about him. Yeah, the 26-year-old arrived in January from Wolfsburg on loan. He made 11 appearances, he scored 1 goal and got 3 assists. I think that's maybe a little bit more than I expected based on performances. Rangers did have an option to buy Andreas Skov Olsen in the initial deal and that was made in January for around £9 million. Obviously, Rangers haven't taken up that option. Lots of hype about Andreas Skov Olsen. I think he's a player that Rangers have tracked for at least 5 or 6 years. I mean, I remember him being linked under Steven Gerrard. This goes back a long time that Rangers have been looking at Skov Olsen. But it just did not work. It simply did not work. So, Kyle, what's your thoughts on it? Would he stay for you, or would you let him go?
It's generally one of the most disappointing Rangers transfer sagas, that I can remember. As you said, he'd been linked with for such a long time, ticked so many boxes, but when he just came, just could not cut it. We've seen 3 moments of quality from him the whole time we were here. The 2 crosses in, the cross in for Chermiti for the overhead kick, the cross in against Hearts for the header, and the goal he scored against Kilmarnock. But when I decided that he is not a player that we could keep at the club was that Hearts game away from home at Tynecastle. We were all scratching our heads at the time why he was included in the lineup. We thought he must have been doing something in training, but that was a guy who just doesn't understand the nuances of Scottish football. When you're still hanging on by your fingernails in a title race, you just can't put in a performance like that. So I wouldn't even take him if we were offering him for free, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, I think most will agree with you on that, to be honest. I was one that debated it. I think this was before the split. I was debating that I think it was a player that really needed a pre-season, and if you could get him for a vastly reduced fee, I would potentially take a risk on him. But yeah, I thought the performance at Hearts was a player that I think they had already mentally checked out of being here and playing for Rangers. And I think if it was a player that you really had ambition for, of staying here and really working hard to earn his place and earn a contract, you would have seen a much better response from him. So it's an easy one for me as well. I would definitely let him go. He wouldn't be one I would bring back. Craig, what about you? Any different?
Yeah, I'd agree with you. I'd let him go. I think he is the one player that's arrived at us that I have just most wanted to succeed ever in my life. I think there was such a big build-up of it. When he arrived, I don't think he ever saw that he could mentally play for Rangers. I just don't think he had that mentality. I think my biggest frustration with him was that he would face up his defender, and then he would turn back and just play the ball straight to the right back. And so many times that happened, and so many times he actually went to play that pass and then lost the ball, which you're just like, what is going on? But he just seemed to lose all confidence of taking anyone on. The only times that you can remember he did that are the ones that Kyle mentioned, the assist against Hearts, the assist against Celtic. Outside of that, he did nothing of note. I wouldn't keep him. I'm massively disappointed to be saying that because I really had high hopes for him. But yeah, he just didn't do it for us in the Rangers shirt.
I would not be surprised if in a year's time we're seeing Andreas Skov Olsen playing somewhere and he's absolutely banging in the goals again. I don't think you lose that ability overnight. I really don't. What he was able to show at Club Brugge, he was able to show it in brief spells at Bologna, but we are not in a position to take risks like that. We can't be spending even 4 or 5 million on a player that we've already seen here that can't match the level. Okay, on to the next player. The two will kind of bleed into each other here. So if you want to talk about one when comparing the other, and you'll understand why in terms of position on the park. One was out on loan last season. We had the other one on loan. But we will start with Mikey Moore. The 18-year-old joined last summer from Spurs on a season-long loan. I think actually at the time he was 17 when he signed, I think, wasn't he? And then he turned 18 when he was here. 47 appearances for Mikey Moore at Rangers, 7 goals, 4 assists. Came in with lots of hype, obviously, because he'd already played for Spurs in the Europa League and things. I think he had maybe 1 or 2 Premier League outings as well. I think it's fair to say that he has the potential to go all the way to the top. I think genuinely with Mikey Moore, I would not be shocked if in 3 or 4 years' time Mikey Moore is playing for England. That's how genuinely good I think this boy can be. He's not that at the moment, but I think you can see the potential in there and what he was able to produce at Rangers. And I think he's just going to get better every single season. We'll start with you first then, Craig. For you, is it just Mikey Moore's that such a good player that if you've got the opportunity, he's got to come back? Or do you look at it slightly differently?
I would snap your hand off to bring him back, to be honest. And if it impacts Gassama. I spoke in the last answer that if you get the right value for Gassama, then I'd let him go anyway. So I'd much rather focus on what's going to be best for us and what's going to be best for Rangers. I think Mikey Moore, you said there, 47 appearances, which is an incredible amount for a player of his age to be playing for us. And in a lot of those appearances, he was our most accomplished and most confident looking player in the whole squad. So I think that says a lot for how good he is, but I think it says a lot as well for the mentality he has. He's so talented, and you could see that, and defenders were scared of him. And that allowed other players to create space and other players to do that as well. Actually, in my head, he'd scored more goals than what you had said there. I don't know why. I just felt as we're going through the season, he contributed quite regularly in terms of goals. I can see that increasing if he comes back in terms of the contributions. And I think we do need more contributions from our wide players in terms of goals and assists. But I would take Mikey Moore back in a heartbeat, and I wouldn't really care how much it cost either. To be honest, I think he can be a pivotal player for us. Be interesting to see how Derek McInnes is with him. I don't know. Kind of spoke about Antman and maybe that more direct style. I don't know if that would suit Mikey Moore, but I thought Mikey Moore and Tour Robbins had a really good relationship down that left-hand side. Mikey Moore obviously enjoys cutting in more often than not. Tour Robbins bombing down the left-hand side. It just creates that uncertainty for defences. And yeah, I would snap your hand off to bring Mikey Moore back.
It was actually something that Andy Halliday spoke about in Open Goal the other day about Mikey Moore and potentially not fitting what Derek McInnes would want from a winger. And I think Mikey Moore, even though we did play him on the left-hand side, I think you've seen most of his value when he came inside the pitch. So the argument would be, would Derek McInnes want that type of player? That's what we're going to have to wait and see. I think at times the 18-year-old was demanding the ball and driving Rangers forwards. I mean, I can't remember the actual game it was at Ibrox. I think Rangers were struggling the first half and we brought Mikey Moore on. It might actually be Motherwell that we ended up losing, but he came on at half-time and was demanding the ball off the defenders. He was running back, grabbing it, and then running through the centre of the park to try and get us up. And I think what we've maybe forgotten about is that he had a really tough start. He really struggled at the start. If you remember, the Ibrox support were not having him at all. They were thinking, here we go, another lone player. How do you view it, Kyle, in terms of bringing Mikey Moore back? But and I'll throw something in here because Craig mentioned Djeidi Gassama in there and potentially impacting his minutes. Off the top of my head, it's not Djeidi Gassama I'm thinking about. It's Findlay Curtis, which we'll come on to next. Does that potentially change your thoughts on Mikey Moore, bringing him back, that do we stifle Findlay Curtis's development, or for you, is it simply Mikey Moore is a better player at this time and we want the best player possible? He's got to come back.
I just think he's so good. You two have already touched on it. His attitude is unbelievable. But looking at it slightly differently, it's his. He allows Rangers to play in an entirely different way. And what I mean by that is that he allows us to defend for the front so much. He was one of the most fouled players in the league last year. So every time you just needed to, a wee minute if the pressure was on, he was really good at receiving the ball, and he was fearless at running with people and just taking a foul and just taking a bit of time and just letting Rangers, steady themselves at times. He had about 4.8 recoveries, which is mad for a winger per game, and a lot of those recoveries were in the opposition half, and it allows Rangers, as I said, to play a different way and defend from the front. You guys already touched on it, is dribbles. There wasn't as many dribbles per 90 minutes in the league as I thought. It was about 2.5 a game, but it was still more than virtually all of our other wingers when we're talking about it. So I think he would stifle Findlay Curtis's development a bit, but I think if you get him up and you have the two of them and McInnes says, look, you two are my wide players out on the left, I think I'd probably be quite happy with that. For me, get Gassama out, use some of that money for a loan fee. It's an absolute no-brainer for me that if it can happen, but I don't think it's going to happen.
See, to be fair, I think on the Findlay Curtis point, see if you get Mikey Moore starting 2/3 of the games and Findlay Curtis playing a third and coming off the bench and a lot of the other games, I think that's a really good balance actually, and I think that the level would, obviously what you want from players coming off the bench is for the level not to drop by too much. And actually for them to bring some freshness and something different. And I think if you've got Moore starting and then Findlay Curtis comes in, I think it's much less of a drop than we saw last season in terms of what was coming on. So I'm with Kyle. More and more it's convinced me that Djeidi Gassama should go, to be honest, and it would just make it Moore and Curtis. But
I'll give my assessment on this, and then we'll talk about Findlay Curtis, because my answer kind of bleeds into the two. You guys would bring Mikey Moore back. I wouldn't bring Mikey Moore back, which is probably a surprise to hear, because I've been on this podcast and spoken about so often how good a player I think he is, and I actually think he's comfortably the best left winger we had last season. I think he was better than Gassama, and I think he's better than Findlay Curtis right now. The way that I kind of look at this differently is that ultimately he's not our player. So I think that has to come into it. And even though you are getting a better player and he can help you, the way I look at this with Findlay Curtis is that even though he probably isn't the best player out of the two of them, I think what Findlay Curtis gives you in terms of goal scoring is something that we need off the sides. Like we don't score enough goals from our wide players. And I think prioritising Findlay Curtis next season should be the route that Rangers go down. Now, in an ideal world, if Rangers get a bid for Djeidi Gassama for the value that they want, he goes out the door and you bring Mikey Moore back on loan, perfect. I think we can all agree that would be the ideal solution. Prioritise first what you think is the most important. For me, I think the most important thing for Rangers now is Findlay Curtis's development. I think you keep Findlay Curtis and you prioritise his goal-scoring ability in this side. And I think for what he was able to show last season at Kilmarnock, I think he could be really effective for Rangers next season. And that's the way that I would personally look at this. So I appreciate that I've probably blended two of the players into it here, and I've given my answer already. That I wouldn't bring Mikey Moore back. You guys win on that one. But for me, just to start this off, I would bring I would keep Findlay Curtis around the club this season. I would give him an opportunity. Let me just give a little bit of a background on him just before I get both of your thoughts on him. The 19-year-old joined Kilmarnock last season. In the last 6 months of the season, they made 14 appearances. He scored 5 goals. 4 of them came post-split, so really important goals for Kilmarnock. Overall for Rangers so far, 21 Rangers appearances, 3 goals, 2 assists. I think Rangers have tried to offer him a new contract early this summer. There hasn't been any news on that, whether he's signed it. But obviously, I think Rangers are looking at this now and going, well, you've got a year left in your deal. We really have to tie you down, or there's an opportunity where they're going to lose you on a free. For me, I think it's an easy one. You keep him around next season. We'll start with yourself first, Kyle, because we spoke about Mikey Moore there, and it is tough to split this all out because I think they all blend into each other. But Findlay Curtis, for you, would you keep him around next season? Or, again, do you think maybe the best thing for his development is you find him another loan deal? How do you look at it?
If it was up to me, Honestly, I think the Rangers fans need this. I think the Rangers fans need a player that's come up through the academy that goes in and is a huge success in that team. I'll be honest, I've one of the few reasons I was watching Scotland in the World Cup was to see how Findlay Curtis would get on, and I enjoyed watching him. I mean, it's brilliant that we've got a player over there representing the country at such a young age and doing quite well in the brief cameos that he's come on. But he's just, that's the one thing we've always said about him. He knows where the back of the net is. I mean, I know we've all seen, I remember at times putting out tweets in the past about when he was in the youth team. I mean, I think he had like, he was scoring like 50, 60 goals a season and at levels that he was, way above that. But yeah, just he's come on. He's obviously been taken under the wing of Neil McCann over at Kilmarnock, and similar to a player who we're going to come on and talk about later on. He needed minutes, and he got minutes, and he showed what he could do. He's shown he can do it in important games with the pressures on for a team that isn't Rangers. I would keep him around the club. We've got to do everything we can to nurture Curtis and get the best out of him. And honestly, I think Derek McInnes is the perfect guy to do that, given with his track record with Scottish talent in the past. He's going to be a big part of that team for me. He's got to be a big part of that team for me next year.
Yeah, I think that's a good point in terms of the support as well, just wanting to see an academy graduate get a chance, and really be given the faith and the trust of the club to actually go and perform at this level. And I think he's done what we wanted him to do and go to Kilmarnock and was able to show his ability. Craig, what's your thoughts on Findlay Curtis? Do you keep him around this season, or would you potentially investigate another loan?
No, I'd definitely keep him around this season. I think it's time. It's at the right stage of his development for him to make his mark at Rangers now. And I think there's been so few sort of youth players that come through the academy that have had that opportunity where you really think you've got a real shot at this, and you could really not just be a bit part player or a backup that's on the bench all the time, but you could make a real difference to us in terms of a team, in terms of how we perform, in terms of our squad. I think I'm more on Kyle's wave of thinking in terms of I think he's the second choice left winger for me next season, and that's why I would bring Mikey Moore back, because I feel like Mikey Moore could lead that in terms of being the starting left player out left. I hear what you're saying, Ross, about maybe Mikey Moore's better in that more central role, but also maybe having that flexibility isn't the worst thing ever either. And I mentioned in my previous answer about Mikey Moore about that balance, and maybe Mikey Moore starts 2/3 of the games and Findlay Curtis gets a third plus 20-30 minutes off a bench in most other games. Like, you can see how that would work. I like for your answer, Ross, you felt that by prioritising Findlay Curtis and not bringing back Mikey Moore, that Findlay Curtis should be the starter. Is that how you feel he should start the vast majority of games for us next season?
I don't think I would say that he should start every single game, but I think the big thing that I've always felt with Rangers in recent years is there isn't a pathway to first team football. You have to create that pathway. You have to be able that if Djeidi Gassama isn't at top form or he does pick up an injury, that the next person you can go to is someone with that youth academy background, and Findlay Curtis is there and he's shown he's got the ability. I wouldn't have said the same thing last season. I would have wanted there to be another option there, but I think for what he was able to do at Kilmarnock, I think he's been able to show now, especially domestic football, that you can call upon him and he can make a difference. And in fact, we've seen it for Rangers at times. I remember him coming off the bench against St Mirren away and he scored a crucial goal for us. Like, he's been able to do that. I think most will just simply go, well, Mikey Moore is a better player right now, so he should come back. And it is very difficult to argue with that. But I just think let's talk. If you give Findlay Curtis a full season with Rangers where he plays 25, 30 games, maybe next season we're sitting and thinking, right, Findlay Curtis is guaranteed our first choice left winger now because we've given him the time. He's been absolutely brilliant, and now we can build around him. You've got to give him a chance. You know what I mean? We've got to be able to do that at times because we haven't done it in recent years. Okay, on to the strikers. I'm going to change the order here again just because I think this will be a quicker conversation, and then we'll get onto the ones that maybe there's a little bit more to debate. In fact, there's probably quite a few that are quite quick here. There's one big one we're going to discuss. We're on to Danilo first and foremost. The 27-year-old, he joined from Feyenoord in 2023. I think it was around 5 million, 6 million that Rangers paid at the time, which was big money. He's got a contract till 2028. He's got 2 years left in his deal. But I think with Danilo, the big thing is that I think there's certainly ability in there. Good finisher, like really good finisher. But I think the injuries at Rangers have absolutely killed him physically. Like, I just don't think he's able to get to the level of physicality and athleticism that you need in Scottish football now. Okay, let's start with yourself first then on Danilo. Does he stay, or is this the time that Rangers move him on this summer?
Yeah, listen, I don't need to spend an awful lot of time on this. I totally agree with you. Injuries killed him. I would even go as far to say as that this might be one of the worst transfer deals that we have ever done. See, when I was looking at this and doing my prep, I could not believe when his contract expired at Rangers. Just doesn't have the mentality, doesn't have the physicality to play in the league. Get rid. We will take a significant loss on them. That's all I have to say about it.
Oh, we definitely will. 5.5 million, 6 million on a 5-year deal. That's a bad one. And like I said, some unfortunate parts of that. Getting a really bad injury isn't his fault, but he's just never been able to really come back for that. And yeah, I'll make my answer quick on this. I'm exactly the same. I would definitely let him go this summer. If there's interested parties, we definitely have to try and make that deal. What about you, Craig? Any different?
No different from me. I do feel a bit sorry for him. I felt like a lot of the injuries he's gotten have been really innocuous ones that you wouldn't really say are should be as serious as what they have become for him. So I do feel sorry for him, but yeah, I think he's gone. I think actually he might be one of the ones that's really difficult to get out the door because he'll be on a decent wage. I'm not sure whatever club he's going to go to next will be able to offer him the size of wage that he's on. So he might be one of these players that we see goes out on loan again this season and then basically goes out on loan until his contract is finished because he knows he's not going to get another contract off that size at a club of our level. So that might be how it comes out. I mean, you're not going to get more than £1 to £2 million for him, I don't think. If you get that, you're snapping someone's hand off probably. It's a shame, but he's just not up to his standard, and we need that space for someone else who's going to really contribute to us throughout the season.
All right, let's move on to Youssef Chermiti. I think there'll be a bit of debate about this one. 22-year-old joined last summer from Everton. Anywhere between 8 and 10 million, I think is the reported fee. I think it was 8 million up front, rising to 10 with add-ons, and then I think there's a significant sell-on percentage for Everton and there as well. 41 appearances, 15 goals, 5 assists, and he is contracted at the club till 2029. I think it's fair to say that Youssef Chermiti started slow, very slow, and I think everyone was thinking that, can we really be affording to spend 8 to 10 million on a player that needs this much time to get up to speed? Because let's be honest, he'd hardly played any first team football. That was his first proper season there at Rangers. And I think, as you've seen towards the back of the season, definitely a player there. If you actually look at those overriding stats, 41 appearances, 15 goals and 5 assists. The majority of those goals and assists came in the second half of the season. So you could probably cut the appearances in half there, and it does look a lot better for them. But unfortunately, you're always going to judge it over a full season. Let's start with yourself first then, Kel, on Youssef Chermiti. I think where the debate is going to come in this is that I think everyone agrees now that there definitely is a very good player in there, and he was able to show that towards the end of the season. But at the time of the recording, there has been interest in Youssef Chermiti again. Rumours that Lyon are looking at placing a £17 million bid. I think we all agree that that's probably not enough for him, but there is that debate again, like we had with like Manny Fernandez, like we had in Nicolas Raskin in previous episodes, that when you're being offered this type of money, do Rangers have to be open to it? And so for you, would you keep him and knock that back and think we can continue to develop him? Or the way you look at it is that is just too much money and Rangers have to entertain it and sell him this summer?
He was awful. I mean, awful when he came in. Like the two of you know how frustrated I was with Chermiti. Like, even when he scored that goal against Kilmarnock and he did that, I was like, what are you doing, mate? Like, you've not earned the right to do that at all, to the point where I was ready to drive him back to Portugal, never mind down back to Liverpool at that point again. But he's obviously come in, and as you said, he was a young guy, and all his metrics were really good. But the one thing that was missing was minutes in his legs, and he got it, and he got the 6 months. Is Rangers a club really that you can afford to do that at? Absolutely not. And that's where the higher ups maybe got it wrong. But wow, what can I say about Chermiti in the second half of the season? To the point where I would have just not had him playing after the first 6 months. I think we need to do everything we can to keep him for one more season at the club. See, I'll be interested to see what people think about this, but see, even if a £25 million bid comes in for him, I hope we turn it down. I think him and Shankland have the potential to be so good. Some of the quality of the goals that he scores is unbelievable, and that's what makes me think we'll get top dollar for him. Anybody looking at the highlight reels, but you'll love this. He outperformed his XG. In possession, he was really good. He had 7, 8, 9 touches a game in the opposition box. I just think he was brilliant. I think his link-up play is really good as well. And I think McInnes, him, Shankland is two up top. I think that has got the potential to be like a really deadly strike force next year. And I could see the two of your faces there when I said that about the 25 million. But I've really changed my mind in Chermiti. I think he could be top for us next season. Like Eagleman, I just want him to keep him for one more season and then let him go.
I think if the money comes in at 25 million, I would be stunned if Rangers knock that back, just because of in a year how much you've been able to turn that around. I agree completely with what you're saying, to be fair, in terms of the ability of the player. And I would love to see him here for another season. And I'm not completely convinced he's going to go. I think with the rumoured interest in him so far and the bids that are being muted, I just don't see Rangers entertaining it at all. So I'm not completely convinced he's going to go. I would love to see him with Lawrence Shankland because I think they both really complement each other. I think Shankland can do a lot of the kind of dropping in that maybe Chermiti at times showed he was good at, but I think what Chermiti is best at is playing on that last line, stretching things in and around the box. I think with the likes of a Lawrence Shankland dropping in, occupying the kind of central space, being that kind of number 10 that you would look for in one of the strikers, I think that would really help him in his game. Maybe simplifies it for him a little bit as well. So I completely agree with you. I would love to see both him and Shankland together next season. How do you look at it, Craig, in terms of what Kale's said there? And would you keep him, let him go? And what do you think about the reported interest in him and the fees being touted?
Yeah, I would try really hard to keep him. I just don't see if a bid for £25 million comes in, how we reject it. I just don't see that. I think, to be fair, Chermiti and Fernandez are the two players that probably signal that a lot of us owe Kevin Thelwell an apology, and a lot of people probably won't like the fact that that's been said. But he's bought players of the right profile who have just needed time. Now, you said, Ross, you don't get time at Rangers, and if you need 6 months to settle in, then that's far too long, and people have already made a judgment on you. He's probably developed more than any player I've ever seen develop at Rangers over the course of a season. I don't think I've seen any player have such a stark contrast between when they've arrived and how they finished the season. Some of the goals they scored are some of the best goals I think I've seen scored at Ibrox, to be fair, and I think that's testament to the quality he has. Still frustrating in those kind of one-on-one situations, I think, as a player. I'd love to see Chermiti stay and have that front three, or have those three players kind of rotating in and around every game that we have, and see what they can bring. I think Chermiti and Shankland as a front two would be a lot of fun for us to watch and would be very effective. I just don't see how. I think we need at least one, if not two, big sales this summer, and Chermiti and Raskin are probably the two that you're really looking at to be that.
So we're split here. I'm going to go, and I think I'm going to side with Craig on this one. And as much as I'd be really interested to see another season of Youssef Chermiti, I'm just not sure that Rangers can turn down that sort of bid for him. I think if the 25 million comes in with a guarantee of a sell on, that type of thing, I just wonder if Rangers will look at it and think, okay, for the return that we've got from him so far, we believe that we can replace him. If he stayed for another season and he scores 25, 30 goals, maybe that's a different conversation. But I think at the current moment in time, I think if a 25 million bid was to come in, which is what we're led to believe is what Rangers value him at this moment, then I think they will take that. And for me, I think I would take that as well. I think I would let him go. It'd be really disappointing. I'd love to see him with Shankland. I'd actually like to see him again with Ryan Naderi because they didn't get too much time together, but I thought they were really good together. So it is a bit of a shame. But the way I look at it is if you sell a player for that type of value in a year turnaround, you've got more money to put back into the squad. You know, as a collective, you make Rangers stronger. So I'm interested to see everyone's opinions in the comments because I think that'll split the support. Let's go on to Ryan Naderi now. The 22-year-old, he joined in the January of this year, 2026, from Hansa Rostock. I think there was a bit of back and forth at the time. I think Rangers initially had agreed, I think it was a $3 million deal and he was going to sign in the summer. From what we're led to believe, that Danilo really pushed that. He wanted the striker to join in January, and Rangers actually upped that to around $5.5 million, which is a big fee for us. Big, especially for a player coming out of the German third division, not with that real reputation behind him. He made 11 appearances so far, 3 goals, 3 assists, which I think is a good return. He's contracted until 2029. It's an easy one for me. I'll just start us off on this one, guys. For me, I think you're obviously going to keep Ryan Naderi. He's only been here for 6 months. I think you've really seen how much it impacted us in the last part of the season when he was out with an injury because you couldn't play the same way. And there wasn't that same connection between attack and midfield and we weren't able to press as effectively. And I think you've seen the big difference. And I think that probably shows you how good a player he was in his first 6 months when you're talking about him in that way. But we'll start with you first then, Craig. I mean, I imagine it's an easy one for you. Ryan Naderi stays, yeah?
Yeah, he absolutely stays. I think I've been really impressed by him. We obviously came in with that bigger fee than potentially most of us thought it was going to be. But to me, he showed exactly why we have paid that fee in terms of the potential he has, in terms of the impact he had on us. And I think if we hadn't brought in Ryan Naderi, there was no way we were back in that title race at any point. I think it was that big a difference that he made, and like you said, we saw that when he got injured and we saw the big gaps that there were. I'm really impressed. His work rate is incredible. His game awareness is also so high, like his awareness of where other players are on the pitch, where he needs to be, what he needs to do to be able to make the biggest impact. I think the only thing maybe is goals. You probably want a bit more output goals-wise from him, but if he's sitting in that slightly deeper role and creating the space and also linking up the play for Chermiti to get the chances, then you kind of understand that, and that's part of his play. But I think he's got a huge future for us at Rangers, and he'll be a really vital player. And yeah, we paid a lot of money for him, but for me, what we saw in the second half of last season, he's really got the potential to fulfill that and much, much more.
Kel, what about you? What's your thoughts on him? And I'm guessing there's no controversial opinion from you that you would get rid of Ryan Naderi this summer.
Nah, not a chance. I really, really like Ryan Naderi. I mean, as you guys have said, good. Once you accept that he's the second striker, he's not the focal point in the team. I think that's where you can really understand his side of his game. Really good at pressing high up the pitch. You know, similar kind of stats in terms of Mikey Moore, in terms of like winning the ball so high up the pitch, putting opposition defenders under pressure. He had a really high amount of touches in the opposition box last year for the amount of minutes that he had. And another player at Rangers who's got like over half of the headers that he goes up for, he wins. Which is him and Chermiti, which is really good. So yeah, and another really good thing about Naderi that maybe the two of you haven't quite touched on is that he was good at taking the ball with his back to goal and under pressure, and he never hid away from it. And I think that's something that we lack in the team at times. So yeah, another one I hope that I'm really looking forward to seeing him play, because I think what McInnes did with Shankland last year, I think he's going to do a wee bit of that with Naderi and hopefully add the goals to his game. But for me, I'm so excited that, I mean, I know you two have just punted Chermiti, but I think Naderi, Chermiti and Shankland and one other, maybe that tells you what I think about the next one. But yeah, I think four big physical strikers up front, I'm really looking forward to that next year.
Okay, last player. We're finally there. And yeah, I hope everyone's enjoyed this, because this might be the longest podcast episode we've ever done. But we've finally got to the last player. It's Bojan Miovski, 27-year-old. He joined last summer from Girona. He made the move there the season before from Aberdeen. I think reportedly around 6-7 million he moved from Aberdeen to Girona. It didn't really work out for him. Rangers were able to get him. I think it was a 2 million initial fee, rising to 4 million, which I think at the time we all felt that's a really good deal for Bojan Miovski, what he was able to produce the season before. At Aberdeen, 42 appearances for him, 13 goals, 1 assist. contracted till 2029. I think Bojan Miovski was probably, for me, the most disappointing player last season, because what I thought we were getting, and I didn't really ever think that we were getting this all-round number 9. I just thought you were so effective for Aberdeen the last few years. He scored plenty of goals against us and Celtic. I thought you're getting someone in this league that you can maybe build around, and he can just guarantee you goals week in, week out. And maybe we've seen a little bit of that towards the end of the season again, but both Russell Martin and Danilo didn't really see him as being their first choice striker, I don't think. I think over time they both felt he was going to be the backup. Kyle, we'll go with you first then on Bojan Miovski.
For me to get the best out of Bojan Miovski, and that's why he excelled at Aberdeen, as much as it pains me to say it, is you need to play him week in, week out. He's just not going to get that at Rangers with his strikers, especially now we've brought Shankland in. I mean, there's a twisted part of me somewhere that wants to keep Bojan Miovski just so we can all see how Shankland and Miovski perform playing in the same team, because they were two strikers that were absolutely tearing it up in Scotland at one point. But the issue with Miovski for me is he fluffs his lines too many times. There was too many chances last year that he should. There's at least 3 or 4 goals off the top of my head where the ball came across the 6-yard box, and you're going, you just need to bury that, and he didn't. But based off of my previous answers, the fact that keep Chermiti, keep Naderi, and keep we can't punch Shankland, but we keep Shankland. I think there will be 4 strikers in and around that team next year, because McInnes will want to play the 4-4-2. For me, it's not Bojan Miovski. So for that reason, I would let him go. But just because I just don't think you're getting the best out of him unless you're playing him every week. Yeah, good player, should have worked, but it was very disappointing again last season. So yeah, for that reason, I think I'm making space for a 4th striker to come in for him.
I think there's also the side of it that Rangers were just creating more chances in the second half of the season, and I think Bojan Miovski is the type of striker that if you give him chances in front of goal, he's going to take them. I think the frustration with me with Bojan Miovski was the rest of his game, and I thought when he first came in, I think people quickly seen that kind of dropping off, laying the ball off, trying to do more than just lead the line. He actually can't do it, right? He can't. So if Rangers are going to keep him this summer, Derek McInnes was going to have to use him as the last line striker. He can't ask him to drop in because he's just not got the ability to do it. And I think that was the main frustration for me, that we were asking him to do it. I think I would actually keep him. And I think the reason why I would keep him is because of that second half of the season when Rangers were creating more chances and you just got more of a return from him. And I think to have a striker like that in Scotland could be really effective for us. There also is that point that you made there, Kyle, about the seeing Shankland and Miovski together. There is something I want to see about that as well, just because there were 2 strikers in Scotland outside of the old firm that were scoring goals for fun, and now they're both with us. I think there's something in there that I'd like to see as well. And also saying that, I know I spoke about earlier about Youssef Chermiti, and if Rangers do get that value around 25 million, I would let him go. But I would be super comfortable going into this season if Rangers don't make any additions up front, and their 4 options are Chermiti, Naderi, Shankland, and Miovski. How do you see it, Craig? Kyle, quite critical of him there. I've maybe tried to back him up a wee bit. How do you see it?
I know in a previous answer I spoke about maybe bringing a young player in as a 4th striker, and that is because I had literally forgotten about Bojan Miovski. But now that I've remembered he's here, and now that I've remembered sort of the second half of the season that he had, I do think there's something there. I agree with Kyle to an extent about he needs a run of games, and he's not going to get that. And is that going to be enough because when he's going to play is really going to be when we're up against it and Chermiti's injured, or whoever the replacement number 1 striker is injured, or there's an issue, or like we're just throwing everything at it because we need 2 goals in the last 15 minutes, or there's those kind of situations are where we need Bojan Miovski to come in. I just think he's a player of too much quality, and he knows where the back of the net is, and we saw that in terms of some of his finishing, like you said, Ross, when he had more chances towards the sort of the end of last season. Miovski to come off the bench in the majority of games to just give you that extra bit to try and get you over the line. I'm not sure you get a 4th choice striker that would be as good as that. anywhere else or have high enough quality. But on the other hand, is Miovski going to want to be a fourth choice striker? Or do we want to pay that much of a salary to our fourth choice striker? I think that stuff comes into it as well. I would keep him, but I can see reasons why he wouldn't be here next season as well.
It's a split again. I think it's probably the most split we've been so far in these series. I think we were more aligned on other players, but I think the attackers have split us. I think there's only a couple in there that we're all completely aligned on, and that's the good thing. And look, there's going to be lots of comments in the YouTube channel as well, and in the podcast channels talking about this. I wouldn't be surprised by that. But yes, we are going to wrap up there. That is probably the longest podcast we have ever done. So if anyone did get to the end of this, thanks very much. We actually really appreciate it. I'm sure there'll be plenty of comments based on our opinions. As always, thanks for watching. Thanks for being involved. The community here is growing really quick. We're really appreciative of that. We actually hit 1,500 subscribers over the weekend as well, just past there, which is massive for us. That was one of our little mini targets this season, and we've been able to get there. So thanks very much always for the support. If you have enjoyed the content, as always, please like the video, consider subscribing to the channel. It does help us out massively. 75% of people that watch our content at the moment don't subscribe, so you'll be helping us out hugely if you can just hit the subscribe button. You can find us on all major audio platforms as well if you prefer listening. It'll be interesting to listen to this one back. Actually, you might have to go for the longest walk ever to finish this podcast. But yeah, you can remember follow us on X and TikTok as well. You can find lots of clips on there about the podcast. And all I need to do is before we finish up is thank the two other podcasters with me, Kyle.
Yeah, no, thank you. I enjoyed doing this one. Maybe didn't cull as many people as what I thought I would in this one, but no, it's been good doing these series, and definitely something we'll look to do in the future for the podcast, because people out there for some reason seem to be enjoying them.
Yeah, we've had a really good response to this actually. I think people have enjoyed the kind of breakdown on each player, and yeah, this will be the final episode, but we've got plenty more things planned this summer in terms of probably more transfer analysis now that we're really getting into the transfer window. So I'm sure everyone's got that to look forward to. And Craig, thanks as well. Thanks for your time.
I really enjoyed it, and really enjoyed the last few episodes of this as well. I was actually sitting there trying to work out in my head how many people are we keeping and how many people are we not. But I think we've got a very attack-heavy squad based on who we're keeping and who we're not. So maybe that's a sign of the work that needs to come from Rangers.
Maybe put that in a comment somewhere so people can read and see how many we actually decided to keep and how many we actually let go. I reckon it's probably about 50-50, to be honest. I think that's probably the way it's worked out. And as always, yeah, I'll put the players in the comments below the videos for everyone to copy and paste and give their assessment on it. And of course, give us your comments and all our opinions on these players. We really appreciate that, and we'll get back to you when we can. As always, thanks very much for engaging with the content, watching, and we'll see you in the next one.